Welcome to Season 4, Episode 41 of the Outlap F1 Podcast, part of the Ship It Studios Podcast Network, and this is the 2022 US Grand Prix race review. I am your host, James, along with my wonderful co-host, Andy and Deanna. 3 strong tonight, all for one for all. Andy, good to see you back from Texas. And Deanna, good to see you nice and clear. Maybe your internet is working better tonight. I'll give it to you, Andy. You flew back today. How was it?
Actually, for having done this a number of times, this was one of the better, easier, other than the little bit of delay and the fact that Austin was having its first rain in a month, just getting to the airport. But once I got there, everything worked relatively smoothly. Got home. O'Hare I think I found the sweet spot. Flying about 3:30 in the afternoon at O'Hare. There's nobody there. And I think I got like the 5th bag coming out of the baggage claim. So I'm going to go find a lottery ticket later. But yeah, as far as coming back, that was about as smooth as you can get.
Well, maybe you can win something on a scratch. You can get yourself some new sunglasses to.
Yeah, that's the one negative. My 10-year-old pair of sunglasses. If you have a red Dodge Charger and you're in the San Antonio area and you look in the sunglass holder and you see them, hit me up on Twitter if you can. I'll pay you to get them back.
That might work, Andy. I'm holding out hope for you.
Who knows? Who knows? Not likely.
Good to see you. How was your weekend? What'd you think of the race?
Good to see you. Great race. I actually had a bunch of friends come over, and I got to explain them F1. And they probably think I'm super nerdy and weird, but it was fun to try to get other people into the sport. So yeah, we had a great time. And ordered way too much food, and now I have about 20 pounds of wings in my fridge.
Good for you.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, wings all week. Very good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Andy, I want to hear more about your weekend overall. But before we get into that, I've got to remind everybody you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Discord, Reddit, and YouTube at Outlap F1 Podcast. Of course, you can check out our link tree on our Twitter profile page. Do us a solid and click like and subscribe on YouTube if you're watching, or click that 5-star button if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can email the show at chatnow@outlapf1.com. You can check out our website at www.outlapf1.com, where you'll find all of our old episodes, including our F1 for Beginners episode, which came back on episode 4 of this season. A good one for maybe Deanna's friends to check out and learn more about F1 for anything she may have missed on Sunday during her explanation. Andy, tell me a little bit about Outlap F1 Nation and their continued stepping up.
Yeah, as always, thank you so much to the people who support us with actual money. So we are super grateful to the following people: Dean Warwick, Yuri Dolchester, Paul Weaver, Quentin Warden, Cody Walsh, Kevin Kelly, Regan Stanzik, Timothy Brown, and Jonathan Scott. Thank you so much for your continued support of our little endeavor here. If you'd like to become a member of the hashtag Outlap F1 Nation, please, we will have a link in our show notes. You can go to our Anchor page, $1, $5. It all goes to make the show better. I never thought in my life I'd actually be able to do broadcasts from a hotel room successfully, but we were able to do it. And thank you so much for the nation to enable us to do that.
Hell yeah, it turned out well. You can also check out Manscaped for all your manscaping needs and use code OUTLAP, OUTLAP, all one word, for 20% off and free shipping. And of course, our buddy Vincenzo Landino has his t-shirt line on thef1guy.com. Also, Athletic Greens at athleticgreens.com/emerging for all your delicious and nutritious needs. And of course, our sponsor this week is also the Portage Park Development Project, a thriving community in the Upland Metaverse. If you are from Chicago, Portage Park might sound familiar. That's because the Upland Metaverse is based on real-world cities and properties, and Portage Park is an actual neighborhood in Chicago. We want to show the best Portage Park has to offer. Come join us. Links to the Portage Park Discord server, racing track maps, and socials are in our podcast show notes. We hope to see you in the metaverse. All right, so I think we do have a little bit of news here to get into before our headlines of the day, so I'll hand that off to Andy. What you got for me?
Yeah, so what was actually the first part of the weekend was actually quite newsy. A lot of stuff coming out here and there. One, we got the confirmation of what we already sort of knew. ESPN has now fully and officially extended their deal to cover Formula One in the United States. That coverage will continue to feature commercial-free races as well, so that is a huge win for U.S. fans. We're happy to see that. I was very happy with that. Also, what broke during the team principals press conference, not what you thought was actually going to break. Cost cap, no, real news really broke about that. However, Yus Capito, who was not supposed to be in that part of the press conference. Mattia Binotto, I guess, came down with something and conveniently wasn't going to be around when they were talking about cheating. So you can leave that and put that to however you want. But that meant Yus Capito was there, and he just sort of casually confirmed, oh, by the way, Logan Sargent gets the Williams second seat, replacing Nicholas Latifi, contingent on him getting a super license. And I think all he has to do is finish sixth or better. Basically, it just means he has to not double DNF in Abu Dhabi, and an F1 drive for American Logan Sargent on the grid for an American-owned team. So, yay us.
Hell yes, Andy. I think we got one race left of F2, and Logan just got to hang on there. So I'll be watching that for sure, because it'll be pretty badass if we can get American in F1, even if it's driving a Williams. I'll take anything at this point.
Hopefully it's a stepping stone for him. Like, he comes in kind of like, we've seen other people, kind of pulling what Albon is trying to do. If he can establish himself in the Williams and outdrive that car a little bit, maybe the car will get better, some support from Doralton. You never know. So hopefully it's magic in a bottle. So that's the obvious ideal. But it's an first American since Alex Rossi, driving from Manor in, I think it was 2015, first full-time drive since Scott Speed back in 2007.
And who knows, maybe the rumors are true, and Williams and Porsche are going to link up, and maybe it'll actually be a really good team.
Who knows? I mean, Porsche's still looking to come in. We know that, but, where, we're not necessarily sure.
Yeah. Andy, Deanna, the Bears have scored over 30 points on national TV tonight. Anything can happen. So
that's true.
It's a big day.
All right, so let's go ahead and move into our headlines of the day. Andy, you can go first on this one.
Yeehaw! That was just fun. It did get a little bit scary with the Alonso wreck for a second, but with all eyes on the USA, COTA delivered a very entertaining and thrilling product on Sunday. Just from talking to everybody back on the plane, there were lots of F1 fans coming back. Good experiences had by just about everybody I've talked to. So well done, COTA. Well done, USGP.
All right, Deanna, what do you got?
I was hoping something was going to come to me as we started speaking, but it didn't. But yeah, America, great race, great time.
America.
I enjoyed it. Great race start time. Really all around, just a fun weekend. Fun sessions outside of FP2.
Yeah, I got a beef about that, but we'll talk about that.
But other than that, yeah, it's good. That's it.
Very good. For my headline of the day, I've got records are made to be broken. That being the attendance record broken again by the USGP. I think, what was it, like 440 they're reporting over the course of the weekend. So Formula One just keeps continuing to get bigger and bigger in the U.S. And also Max tied the record for most race wins in a single season with Schumacher and Vettel with 3 races to go to try and set that record. So pretty exciting stuff to watch, even though both the drivers and constructors championship are locked up. So there's some middle ground things, and Max Verstappen could be setting a new record. All right, we'll move on to the qualifying record, or the qualifying recap, and for that, I give it to Andy.
Let's hope we'll see if the soundboard actually decides to kick in. It'll probably kick in halfway through that I'm reading. If not, we'll just put this in later. So in what was as the sun was setting at Circuit of the Americas at COTA on Saturday, P20 was Nicholas Latifi. P19, Mick Schumacher. P18, this was a shocker, Esteban Ocon. P17, not so much a shocker anymore, Daniel Ricciardo. And P16 was Kevin Magnussen. That ended up Q1. Advancing through to Q2, but going no farther in P15 was Yuki Tsunoda. P14 was Joe Granu. P13 was Pierre Gasly. P12, Sebastian Vettel. P11, Alex Albon. P10 was Valtteri Bottas. P9, actually now we're into Q3 here, was Fernando Alonso. P8, Lando Norris. P7, Lance Stroll. P6, George Russell. P5, Lewis Hamilton. P4 was Sergio Checo Perez. P3 was Max Verstappen. And an all-Ferrari front row, at least in qualifying, with P2, Charles Leclerc. And P1 with a lap time of 1:34.356 was Carlos Sainz.
Thank you, Andy. Deanna, anything to note from qualifying for you?
I'm going to just say my positive thing because this will not be positive later. Lance Stroll, P7, impressive. At one point in FP1, he was legitimately fastest, and that was wild to see. Really good session in qualifying. It goes downhill, but, just wanted to say something a little positive before we get there.
Yeah, what was that? Sainz's second pole. Excited to see Ferrari top two there, even with Charles getting the grid penalty there. But Carlos Sainz, what a day!
Yeah, good day for Ferrari. I just want to chime in with the guy who was out, then in, and get into Q3 with his completely ass backwards Lando Norris. He was out on pace on P11, gets brought back in with a Zhao Guan Yu. Bit of a suspect call, but I guess the sensors worked properly for track limits there. I've seen a whole bunch of different angles of that one and a Verstappen one. The computers did it. So that's all I'm going to say about the in or out on the lines there. But when he had the opportunity, he then takes, I think, about 3/4 of a second off between his Q2 and his Q3 lap time. He goes from a 36.3 to a 35.6. So big improvement there up to P8. And that then with all the engine penalties props him up 2 more positions. So he started P6. So if he didn't get that break, it's a completely different weekend or a completely different Sunday for Lando there.
All right, very good. So we'll move into Sunday and the race. So we'll start with the back markers. For that, we have 3 non-finishers. We got Carlos Sainz, Valtteri Bottas, and Lance Stroll. Nicholas Latifi then in 17th, the last of the finishers. Daniel Ricciardo, 16th. Fernando Alonso dropped to 15th after a penalty that we'll get into here in a minute. Mick Schumacher in 14th, Pierre Gasly in 13th. So let's start with Carlos Sainz with the simple message of, fuck you, George Russell, you bastard. That was awful.
Well, and was it 500 meters and your race is basically kaput ski? It was Sainz, I think, tried to do a wide line coming into turn 1 to try to get around Max. What we're also seeing is at Coda, the ideal spot is to be P2. That inside line going up that hill is really, really important. And Max got the drive off, had enough rubber down to make it stick. So he was clearly going to do it. But Carlos was trying to set up for maybe a shot back down the hill. Maybe he comes back in the essence. Who knows? Russell tried to be, I think, overly aggressive, kind of gets bit by in between Hamilton and, basically comes together. Rear wing hits rear tire, or front wing hits rear tire, and around goes Sainz. Not only a puncture, but apparently caused a water leak, and that ended Sainz's day after 1 lap.
Heartbreak. What'd you think, Deanna?
Yeah, I think the penalty is fair enough. It is kind of a first lap kind of incident, I think. But I guess kind of that lockup made it seem very much his mistake and kind of going in there. But I do think he was kind of distracted with Hamilton on the inside, and then kind of Sainz had to check up to not also run into the back of Verstappen. So I think they all just kind of got on top of each other. Pretty crazy, though, that little spin took Sainz out, and an incident I'm sure we'll talk about here in a minute. Fernando Alonso was able to keep moving.
Yeah. Yeah.
Penalty
6 times as bad.
Yeah.
It's where the cars are contacted, apparently, because I guess Fernando found the sweet spot. We might as well just get into it.
Yeah.
So we had the first safety car about 22 or something laps in.
18.
Forgive me if I'm off on my lap count here. Valtteri Bottas spins out into turn 19, beaches it, causes a safety car. First safety car we've had actually at COTA since I think 2015, they said. And I think that's right. So it's been a while since we've had one. So that bunched up the field. When they got going again, we get down coming into the long straight, turn 10 to turn 12. Looks like Alonso's got a run on one Lance Stroll, who is up to this point having what I would call a dream weekend in the Aston Martin. Both Aston Martins look really, really, really slippery today or on Sunday. Comes up behind Alonso, or Alonso's trying to make an overtake move. Looks like Stroll tried to cut him off. Not much of a wheel move by Stroll's part, but enough to get into Alonso's line. And again, front wing on rear tire, and Alonso goes straight up into the air. Very scary accident. Stroll spins out completely. There's debris all over the place. Alonso very lucky to miss a gap in the Armco barrier coming down the straight there. But he goes airborne, takes a licking, but somehow keeps on ticking because he not only made it back to the pits. I saw the stop, and I'm like, okay, this is him retiring, right? Yeah. And I'm like, holy shit, they sent him out. And he not only sent him out, but he was at pace and passing people later. So that car, Swiss watch companies should go invest in Fernando Alonso and the Alpine chassis because, damn, I thought they were done.
It felt like a replica-ish of the Marcus Ericsson in Nashville in 21. But those cars are just so much more, I don't know, durable, I guess is the best word. So to see an F1 car go up like that, I was shocked his suspension wasn't completely ruined. Yeah. That was just absolutely unreal. And then, again, to come back the way that he did was just the most Alonso thing that ever could have happened.
However, go ahead.
Go ahead, Andy.
I was just going to say, unfortunately, as results turned out, it was short-lived. And so this is our bit of post-race drama. But of course, we have a great race. And like icing on the cake, we have to have an FIA thing going on. The Haas F1 team, who had been sanctioned a couple times with Kevin Magnussen getting the black and orange flag for coming in, which means you have to come in and fix something that the FIA is deemed wrong with your car, was not shown to Alonso. He was able to go out and finish the race. He actually finished P7 on the road, but was later protested by Haas. Why did you give us a flag when you didn't give it to him? There was a shot of his mirror being loose and eventually coming off. So what basically happened is the FIA assessed a 10-second stop-go penalty, which is the equivalent of 30 seconds of race time, dropping Alonso from P7 on the road all the way to P15. BWT Alpine at about 11:45 last night. I know I was still trying to watch a replay of the race to get ready for tonight. Tweeted it out. They saying they are protesting Haas's protest, claiming Haas missed the deadline by 24 minutes, as if we needed more off-the-track politics. That I have now heard, just even tonight, is supposed to get taken up on Thursday in Mexico as to whether the protest of the protest will be upheld. So it may change again. This is the standings as they are tonight. But it did cost Alpine net 5 points because even though Alonso drops down to P15, it did promote Ocon up to P10, so they only lose 5. But in a tight race with McLaren, that's a big deal. It goes from 11 to 6. A lot of money. The gap there. So, it's important. So this is going to drag on. Neither side is going to give this up because it's important points for Haas, important points for Alpine here.
And I just want to complain about FIA inconsistencies because they just drive me up a freaking wall. So Haas, granted, I really understand where Haas is coming from because I think K-Mag's the only one that's really been meat flagged this year, and it has been 3 times, and it's always straight off the bat. And then Haas protested Red Bull with Perez with his front wing that fell off, and then they also protested Alonso. Perez didn't get a penalty. Alonso did. The only differences I can think of between the two is I think Perez, the wing plate maybe fallen off quicker than the wing did, but then there was one line in the FIA documentation that said that Haas argued that it's unsafe to drive with only one mirror. So I think maybe that's why the FIA only gave that to Alonso, not Perez. But I feel like if you're saying it's unsafe to drive with a mirror, it's also probably not the safest to drive with one end plate. It's all just dumb and inconsistent. And it's just you didn't give them the meatball flag in the race. That is a race direction issue. That's not the driver's issue. And 30 seconds just seems very aggressive. Anyway, that's my piece on that.
Having seen the Alonso car come back, I was, again, first of all, shocked that it was going, and even more shocked that it was at pace and able to do what it did. I don't see – I could understand maybe tacking 5 seconds on. Yeah, the mirror flew off. They should have caught that type of thing. I don't know why you throw the book here at this incident now when you had, like you said, Deanna, Checo Perez thing came off and flew off. Could have hit somebody in the head. This was just like, unless you're mad that they didn't try to shake the thing loose when Alonso was in the pit stop. I guess that's the only thing you could maybe argue. Doesn't seem to make sense to me. And, I'm a McLaren fan. We benefit from that as a team, but that's not how I want to win this thing, to be honest with you.
Yeah, yet another issue that the FIA needs to kind of clarify moving forward, but they won't, and we'll just keep complaining about it. Go ahead, Deanna.
I want to continue complaining about the FIA for another instant.
Oh, keep going.
Well, we're in the backfield. You're in the back markers, whatever, so it's the same thing.
Go for it.
Pierre Gasly.
Yes.
Gets a 5-second penalty for being over 10 car lengths. Now, let's flash back to a few races ago. I don't even remember. Do you know off the top of your head?
Singapore. Sergio Perez in Singapore, that's for sure.
Perez technically did this 3 times in a race and only got 1 5-second penalty. And now all of a sudden Gasly's doing it once and he gets a 5-second penalty. And then on top of that, just because this is funny to me, they only served 4.8 seconds on the penalty, so they gave him an additional 10-second penalty because he didn't serve 0.2 of a second. Anyway, that was ridiculous. But it's like, why did Perez get 2 warnings, and then now we're suddenly policing this so intensely? And I just have a feeling, had that been one of the front-running drivers, that would not have been applied that way. I'm going nuts.
James is also happy that you made your point, but he's also happy the Bears are going to win this game. I think it's official. I think we can stop paying attention to it. I'm confident that the Bears are going to win. When do I say that? But yeah, with the Gasly thing, first of all, he couldn't have been the only driver to ever try to warm up his tires and have that happen. I don't know where the policemen suddenly catch that or who complained enough to have it happen. We've seen the Perez thing in Singapore is a perfect example. They gave him 2 strikes. Why not a black and white flag? Hey, don't do that again. Keep it clean next time. Who suffered from that? Because
now maybe after the Perez thing, okay, maybe make an announcement to everybody this is an official thing. We'll police it. If you do it once, this will be a penalty. But that was never conveyed. The only precedent we have is 2 warnings and then a penalty. And then so to kind of go with this, it's all ridiculous. And then they also going back to the other incident with Alonso, they were 2019 is not precedent when Leclerc held on the wing into 130R in 2019 and his wing fell off and he didn't get a penalty. And they were that's not precedent. We're giving you a penalty. It's all annoying.
Yeah. It's maddening. The drivers are, I know just in general, they're pissed. The only good news is we're finally going to have one race director, at least at the end of the season. But this is a whole lot of things have to be looked at. And, I've said it many times before. I think you break up this entire rule book and start over from chapter 1 and say, start over and do this right and make it make sense. And game scenarios out, and that's the other thing that they're not doing when they write these rules is they don't game the stuff out long enough to see, well, what's a team going to try to do to get around this rule versus, just trying to be in or out, fair or foul. Frustrating and maddening as a fan because I think you're right. I think if that's a top running car, I don't think they make that determination because they don't want to take a race win away. Well, those points are important for AlphaTauri and those points are damn important for Gasly, who's trying to establish himself. Moving to a new team next year. So, raw deal as far as I'm concerned. I agree with you fully.
Yeah. Andy, anything really to say about Daniel Ricciardo's and his whatever this was on top of the season is for him?
The horse that rode in on him on Thursday, or the horse he rode in on Thursday was cool. And I guess his car went about that quick. It's pretty much how it looked like. Frustrating race all the way around. He looks absolutely defeated. It's just so annoying to see a great guy have it end like this. There are rumors about him getting a potential reserve seat, potentially even for Red Bull. It looks like the Mercedes thing is dying down, those rumors. So now a Red Bull rumor has popped up. So he seems like he's going to be at least around the paddock every weekend, but will not be on the track. 3 races to go, and I don't think they can get over with soon enough for Danny.
Yeah, and then Mick Schumacher sucks. Here to there first, and then this TV. I'm not wasting any more time on him. Let's go ahead and move up to the midfield where we find Alex Albon in 12th, Zhou Guanyu in 11th, Esteban Ocon first in the points with 10, Yuki Tsunoda with 9, K-Mag at 8th, Sebastian Vettel in 7th place, Lando Norris in 6th, George Russell in his typical 5th, and Sergio Checo Perez finishing in 4th. Deanna, where do you want to start with the midfield?
I just want to start with the point where we didn't get to see too much of it in the broadcast, but like the Gasly, Albon, Zhou, Ocon, Tsunoda, that battle, kind of that whole midfield went, even Norris and all of them were involved at points, but it went through the entire race. I mean, there was great stuff happening at the front, and that's what we watched a lot of, but I just kind of shout out to the regs, and especially on this track, there was nonstop action throughout the entire race.
It was being there. From the perspective of being there, it was a race where your head was literally spinning all over the place. And the battles were spaced enough out to where you could go, okay, that's the P1 battle. Okay, let's see what happens as that goes into turn 1. Okay, now wait. Watch that on the TV. Here comes the P 7, 8, 9 train of 5 cars. And they would go back and forth against each other. The DRS actually worked really well down that main straight this time. And worked really well down the other straight as well. So moves and counter moves. This was, I think, the first race, since Saudi Arabia, where I could literally say we saw the move and counter move thing of these regs come back in full force. This is what they were trying to do when they designed these rules. I love the combination of these cars on this track. It was awesome. Awesome show.
Yeah, the regs looked great. Makota has, I'm sure we all expected it, and it really played out really nicely. As far as the race direction went, from a production standpoint, overall I thought it was okay. I thought they showed some of the midfield, but I kept get this weird feeling it almost felt like they were zeroed in on Charles Leclerc a bunch randomly throughout the race. No. Normally I don't mind that, and we saw some cool racing from him, but I think we did miss some really cool shit, especially from Sebastian Vettel. Go ahead.
I can tell you who they were zoomed on. Brad Pitt, the entire weekend. If you took Brad Pitt out of that race direction and showed me the midfield battle, think of all the things I could have seen.
True. He's probably the only guy there better looking than Charles Leclerc, though. So.
It was a pretty who's who pre-race grid, I'll say that. The celebs were out in full force. No Megan Thee Stallion sighting this year, though.
No. I'll give it to Brad Pitt. He's the one, I think he's working on that movie with Lewis. So he was there the entire weekend.
It's top secret.
We saw him the entire weekend. And I'm just he's there. Great. Let me see the cars on track. This is what we're here for.
He's staring at a screen. He's there and he's staring at a screen. Ooh,
if I want to see Brad Pitt, I will watch some movie at some point. But
throw in an Ocean's 15, you're fine.
All right, Andy, where do you want to go next?
Let's talk about the tumultuous up and down day of one Lando Norris, who also took a licking and kept on ticking. So he started off P6. You look at this result and you go, well, it doesn't look like he moved very much. Well, that doesn't tell the story. The fact that he was up that high in P6 was flattering to the McLaren car because they were nowhere near P6 pace most of the weekend. So he dropped almost instantly down to where I figured where he'd be, cracking at the end of the points, trying to get in, maybe score a point or two. Kind of got screwed over by the first safety car because he had just pitted. So he actually fell back a bit and ended up in P14 at one point. The second safety car, when the Alonso wreck happens, he was the first one to come across all of the debris, piece of debris. Lucky that it didn't hit him in the head. Lucky that it didn't hit the halo, but it did take off a chunk of his front wing. So that was gone, and there was nothing McLaren could do about it. So they kept him back out there, but a late pit stop call to put him on a set of new hard tires proved to be the definitive thing, because then he was able to do some overtaking. I think he goes from P13 on the road at one point all the way up to P6, including a last lap pass of the now, obviously wasn't there post-race, obviously, but at the time, Fernando Alonso. And to watch him track him down from 4 seconds back with 5 laps to go was insanely fun to watch. He tried 2 other moves going into turn 1. He couldn't do it. He ended up doing it in turn 12 on the last lap. And that was not the only last lap thing we saw. So you talk about Lando, talk about Sebastian Vettel. What a day for him and Aston Martin. Led the race. just a slow pit stop for him cost him probably a shot at a podium because they were on it. Aston Martin found whatever this was the Aston Martin we thought we were going to see most of the day. So great drives from, I think, both Vettel and Norris today. Fun watch for sure.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think at one point Norris overtook 3 people in 3 laps. Like it was just one after the other, which was just fun because he was literally nowhere, and then all of a sudden up there. And then Vettel, the battle with K-Mag at the end was beautiful and lovely, and it's just so fun to see kind of the Vettel of old. Even though he's about to retire, he's still fighting, and he's still kind of. I feel like we haven't seen that from him in a long time, so it was just fun to see and see him back in the lead of the race. And take that lap total to the 3,500. So good for him.
Yeah, then we got George Russell finishing in 5th place. We talked about the start of his day, ruining Carlos Sainz's day. We kind of mentioned that was him kind of racing Lewis Hamilton. Do we think at all that maybe he's squeezing a little bit? After starting the season, basically finishing in 5th every race, built up a nice lead on Hamilton. But it really seems like in the second half of the year, Hamilton's really charging hard towards him. He's only, I think, 20 points back. And if you were to place a wager today, who do you think wins the Mercedes battle? George Russell holds on, or Lewis Hamilton makes up those last 20 points and finishes ahead of his young teammate?
20 points is a lot to ask in equal machinery. Unless there's a DNF coming, I do think George will get there. I also do think he is feeling the pressure because he was the guy who decided to duck in at the end. Now they had plenty of space to do this, to go get a fastest lap, which he then went out and did. But he's only doing that because he thinks he needs it. So that means he's obviously seeing his teammate doing much better in the car and coming to grips with it. I mean, George had, obviously, I think he got some damage in that first lap collision with Sainz, so maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know. But he was basically nowhere and had himself, believe it or not, one of the few guys who had a very lonely race. Just kind of stuck there in P5, couldn't really move forward, couldn't go backwards. So that's where he was.
You agree on that, Deanna? You think George Russell will hold on?
I think so, but I mean, I don't know. Hamilton could do it because I just think of Brazil and how incredible he is in that place. And now with 8 points in the sprint, he just has a little bit more of an opportunity there. I mean, I think it's going to get tighter at the end. Definitely, though, in the last, 6-7 races, Hamilton's just had the measure of him, though.
Does Hamilton's brilliance in Brazil, does that include the time he lost the drag race to Pierre Gasly at the end? I can't not mention it.
Go for it.
Only to be usurped by going from P20 to P5 in a sprint race and then winning the next day.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it's okay.
Didn't happen.
Didn't happen.
All right. Sergio Perez finishing in 4th, just off the podium. Probably if there was another 4, maybe 5 laps of this race, he probably was going to finish on the podium. He was definitely hunting down Charles Leclerc there. I think on the last lap, Charles lost 1.3 seconds to Max, and I think Sergio gained a second on him or something just in the last lap. So he was charging hard. Charles had those mediums on. But yeah, Checo Perez. So now him and Charles continue to swap, second place. I think Charles has a 2-point lead on him. I hate to root for my driver to finish in second, but I mean, that's kind of what I'm focused on these last 3 races. But we do have Mexico coming up. So Checo Perez in a pretty decent spot. Anything? Or go ahead, Andy.
I was going to say Charles has got a bit of a road match coming up for this next weekend. Mexico is Checo territory. It was also interesting to see. I mean, he's obviously got a ton of support here at COTA. There was a lot of Checo fans in attendance. It was also fun to watch the different groups of fans react to different things as they were happening throughout the race. So everybody's got a supporter. They're all 20 guys have got somebody who supports them in the U.S. And I never thought I would get to the day to see that because, the first year I went down there, it was all very Hamilton and Ferrari. Now it's so eclectic. So everybody's got a rooting interest, and it's fun to see.
Yeah, it's awesome. Actually, Checo and Max Verstappen made another appearance on PMT, and I think it was Friday's episode, so that was pretty cool to see. And Big Cat asked them to pick between the Titans and Colts. They nailed the pick. of the Titans and the under too. So little double action parlay there for the for Team Red Bull. If they didn't need to win something else,
Yeah.
All right. If there's nothing else on the midfield, we'll move on to the podium. Charles Leclerc with his 5th straight podium, finishing in 3rd place. Lewis Hamilton in 2nd, challenging for the win yesterday rather. And Max Verstappen, the champ, sealed the deal for Red Bull's Constructors' Championship. Tied the record for most wins in a single season. He's the best right now. What do you think about the podium overall, Deanna?
Yeah, I think kind of starting with Leclerc, a good, decent drive, decent recovery. He got lucky with the safety car, but that overtake on Perez to break so late, and I do not know for the life of me how he kept it on the track, but that was beautiful, wonderful. A great overtake, a really fun battle with Max after Max had that botched pit stop. So it was fun to see them really going at it, and they were catching Hamilton by a second a lap while the two of them were battling. Leclerc's kind of switched back into turn 1 on Verstappen was fantastic. Yes, Verstappen got a bit at the end, but I just think some really, really, really fun wheel-to-wheel stuff from Leclerc for sure. Which was awesome.
You mentioned the Leclerc Max battle. Well, the Leclerc pass on Checo really had me cheering, going crazy. That was awesome. But then that battle between Leclerc and Max was it was bittersweet, honestly, because it was awesome to see them racing again. But then it's just I'm thinking back to earlier in the year when they were battling for the championship and racing like that for a few races in a row. So it made me think about what could have been this year, but it was really good to see. And I think Coda's the perfect track with these regulations for that, to see that kind of racing throughout.
Yeah, James, I told you so about Coda and Leclerc. You were all despondent on our preview when I told you about the penalty, and I said we could have a crazy Coda race, and Leclerc could be right back in it. All it takes is one thing. And sure enough, he benefited from both of the safety cars, took advantage. Yeah. He was primed. The move into turn 12 against Checo made the entire section where I was stand up and cheer because you couldn't believe that he stopped it. That's what I screamed out. And he stuck it. So it was tremendous skill on both sides of that to keep it clean. Great racing all the way around. The switchback on Verstappen was just, how do you do? Well, I'm going to give you this. And it's the karting move. And I'm just oh, yeah, your grand ride. I got you here. And it just sucks that over time, the tire deg is just not there for Ferrari, because over one lap or over a couple laps, there's definitely still there. So they know what they have to fix moving forward. But yeah, great race, I think for Leclerc. So I thought that was fun. Hey, it's been a while since I've actively rooted for Lewis Hamilton with anything, but I was actively rooting for him on Sunday at Coda. I thought a win was possible. It looked like it was maybe going to fall his way. I literally turned to the guy next to me and said, there's too many damn laps. And it turned out that was the case. Red Bull is just too damn good right now. But he gave it everything he did. He fought it clean, fought it well. That's what you want to see, man. Give me that all next year on legit pace for both those guys. Let's go at it again, man. Woo!
Yep, fully agreed. I hope Mercedes have figured out what they screwed up this season. And then hopefully maybe Red Bull also gets saddled a little bit after some certain regulations got breached. And then we can get a kind of three-way really, really tight fight next year. That's kind of the dream. But yeah, I think definitely Hamilton's best race of the season. He fought with everything he had, I think, to get there. That car was just never going to win against Max. That Red Bull driver combo is just unreal right now.
Yeah, I got to listen to an interview with the Pirelli guy, Mario Iasola, and he was talking about all the data that Pirelli gets. And this is how kind the Red Bull car is. So obviously in the end, Verstappen was on mediums and Lewis is on hard tires, right? Well, they've analyzed over a couple of different races the dead rate between those two tires on both those cars. The Red Bull degradation on the medium is as good as it is for the Mercedes on a hard tire. So that's your advantage. You want to know why Red Bull is winning? They're taking better care of the tire, and it's just unbeatable right now.
I mean, it's crazy. And if you haven't seen the picture from Japan, the amount of tread left on Verstappen's intermediates versus Leclerc's. It's crazy. I don't know, that's definitely a big engineering feat on the car as well, but I also feel like Verstappen's doing an excellent job kind of taking care of that, because Perez, he's always kind of been the tire master, has not been able to do quite the same thing. So just again, the combo of those two is just unreal.
Yeah, overall, like, anytime you see a 3-team podium, it's awesome. It's like I'm always going to be happy with that. Thankfully, my guy made it down to his 5th one straight there. And then Max, not really much else to say about him besides that he's the best right now, in the best car, doing the best things as a driver. And, I did like Charles Leclerc's line when they asked, if they thought maybe we're entering a kind of a dynasty for Max, or a period of Max domination. And Leclerc said, I hope not, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure it doesn't happen. So I appreciated hearing that. I just hope Ferrari can figure out how to turn the 1-lap pace into a full race, which would be nice. You got something, Anna?
I was just going to say thank you to the Red Bull pit crew for making a very rare mistake and throwing Max back into the battle there. So they really helped the battle up front. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. It was there. Stunned silence, and oh my God, what could possibly happen was the reaction, because they had it up on the big screen. So it was all of a sudden you just realize that stop's not going well, and it's still not going well. And now he's finally going, and he's behind Leclerc. But it was the one thing that I think could have capped it was something like that happening, and it led to a very much a grandstand finish. So it was a lot of fun to watch. It was fun to be there. It was an awesome experience.
All right, so that does it for the race recap. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll hear about Andy's experience at his 10th U.S. Grand Prix. Yep. And then we'll go through our standings, both constructors and drivers, fan emails, and prediction standings, where we had double points this week. So we'll see where those shake out when we come back. Welcome back to Season 4, Episode 41 of the Outlap F1 Podcast, part of the Ship It Studios Podcast Network. And this is the 2022 U.S. Grand Prix Race Review. You've got James along with Andy and Deanna. And Andy, I'm going to give it to you so you can kind of tell us about an overarching experience this weekend at it is your 10th, right? U.S. Grand Prix experience?
This was number 10. Starting back in 2012, I was actually, the only year we didn't make it was the COVID year. But this was the 10th anniversary. Probably the most American of the 10, if I can be honest. Like, I would say, like, when it first started, it was a European thing in the U.S., and this was kind of all they did, and they stuck to their regular programs and stuff. It's been super customized, so that's really good. Just some overarching things. Positive improvements by COTA. Number one, the roads going in and out have been improved. I actually did find the 4-lane highway. That was Elroy Road, not the Farm Road. That actually was expanded all the way out to 4 lanes, and it did make a difference, especially getting in there on Saturday. Traffic management, much better going in and out of the circuit. They definitely had more buses. I didn't see people screaming and yelling on Twitter about not being able to find buses this year. So that was also a step in the right direction. Better management, I think, overall of people with access to where they could be or shouldn't be. There were less mob mentality going on, not the free-for-all going for turn 1 like we saw in person last year when they opened the gate and all hell broke loose. Things that could still get better. Number one, the food at the track. You definitely want to eat something before and or after and avoid the food. It is not well done. It's overpriced, and they're kind of a little rude to you, especially on Friday, because they didn't have the screens working in the background. So you didn't know what they had until you literally got up and had to make a choice. And then they give you this digital menu and they're like, well, what are you supposed to pick from? That was not fun. So that would be something I would think they should improve. The other thing that still needs to get improved is Wi-Fi connectivity and or 5G. They tried. It was definitely better, but I could not get any sort of commentary on the BBC or the F1 app anytime after like FP3. It was gone. In fact, coming out on Sunday, I think the network literally got overloaded and we lost all connectivity until I got outside the parking lot. And then I got the flood of texts and everything from everybody. So all of a sudden my phone came back on like, hey, look at that. So that's still an issue. But I think moving in the right direction, I think overall it was a much better experience. I enjoyed it. Getting in and out in terms of flights and the logistics that way, that's all pretty good. Again, Austin traffic is just what it is. Just know that it's there and just be prepared for it. Is the best advice I can give you. But overall, City of Austin, I think, did themselves proud. They had a lot of big events this weekend. They had F1. They had a soccer match at their O2 Stadium up on the north end of town. And I think they just came off of, ATL or ATX Expo or ACL. Thank you. That's what it is. So they've been having big events. So they know how to do stuff. But overall positive, but some things that could still get work done.
All right, good deal. Deanna, you want to run us through the recap of the driver standings?
Yes. So our driver's champion is Max Verstappen. He is now on 391 points. He tied the record held by Sebastian Vettel for most race wins in a season, and I have a feeling he might break that before the season is over. So in second at the moment is Charles Leclerc on 267, and just behind on 265 is Sergio Perez. In fourth is Russell on 218. In fifth is Sainz on 202. And in sixth is Hamilton on 198. So it's another super close battle that we will watch at the end of the season. In seventh, pretty comfortably, best of the rest is Norris on 109. Ocon is eighth with 79. Alonso ninth with 65. Should probably be 70 or whatever he was supposed to score, but whatever. Bottas rounds out the top 10 with 46.
All right, very good. Andy, you want to run us through the team standings, please?
So provisionally, of course, this is pending the protest of the protest. So this could still flip back the other way. But Red Bull did wrap up the Constructors' Championship on a weekend where they lost their patriarch, Dietrich Mateschitz. So they were dedicating their efforts to him. They have 656 points. Ferrari is in P2 on 469. Third place is Mercedes on 416. Fourth is Alpine, now down to 144 after the Alonso penalty. Fifth is McLaren on 138. Sixth is Alfa Romeo on 52. Seventh is Aston Martin, right on their heels now on 51. Eighth is Haas, holding on to that spot with 38. Ninth is AlphaTauri on 36. And in 10th place, Williams Mercedes on 8 points.
All right, very good. Lots of close constructor battles there towards the middle and bottom of the table. All right, Deanna, I'll hand it off to you for the fan emails.
All right, so starting with Rachel Fleming, she says, firstly, Tim Cook could not have looked more bored waving the checkered flag. I know he's in charge of Apple now, but it might have been nice to see a young F1 fan get the chance rather than people who don't look interested. Secondly, does this race show how durable F1 cars are? Alonso went into the air, not his fault, by the way. Stroll moved across him, and yet he still kept going and got good points for Alpine. Anybody want to start?
Well, the Tim Cook thing, I don't know why, unless you have some sort of interest in being there, why you're just there to be there. That was sad.
The one conspiracy theory I had, which is now fully disproven because ESPN signed that contract, was maybe he was looking for TV rights, because I know that they were talking with like Apple and Amazon and all that stuff. So I was like, maybe that makes sense, but now it fully doesn't because they re-signed with ESPN. They have the other data and stuff through Amazon. So why Apple was at all involved in this, I don't know. Are they producing the movie though?
Yeah,
it is supposed to be an Apple production. Maybe that's it.
Yeah. That's why I assumed he was there.
It has to be some weird connection. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Makes a little more sense. But yeah, he sucked.
Yeah. It's like you're never going to get all three. You're never going to be super rich, run a really big company, and be a normal person. So he's going to be awkward. That's just kind of how it works.
Yeah, I guess I'll write it off to that and move on from it because I don't have anything better to say.
Yeah. He has usurped Serena Williams for most awkward flag waving. I will give him that.
That's true. Now,
fair play.
I know the FIA briefs these people, but maybe they scared him to the point where just go like this and don't do anything else and wave it when we tell you, not a lap before. Otherwise, you kind of, end the race a lap early, which would have really screwed some people over. So to me, I don't. Get the guy who does, here's how I solve this. Get the guy that does the IndyCar double wave checkered flag thing, and he should be at all the races. They should pay him. They should find him because he does. And that dude has got that thing down to a science. It's so much better of a thing to do if you want the checkered flag to mean something. So that's my piece on it.
Yeah. Right. Or like any other celebrity that was there that is like hired to be an entertainer. Tim Cook. Anyway, I also hate Apple, so like this is just my time to shine. It's the worst.
John is stewing somewhere in North Carolina right now.
He's shaking his fist right now.
Blue bubbles.
All right, moving on. So the formula says, my thoughts on the race today. That was a properly exciting event. Great to see such a huge turnout and no flares, thank God. I love 3 team podiums, minus the smoke in the way as Vettel and K-Mag were coming around the corner, but whatever. Anyway, also somebody needs to give these honorary checkered flag waivers a 5-second crash course on how to properly do it. I feel embarrassed watching it. Yep. Also, Alonso is lucky his car isn't parked on the moon right now. Scary incident.
Agreed on all points there.
Yeah. The onboard from Alonso was maybe my favorite onboard of the year now because it looks so like just crazy.
Did you see his tweet? Did you see Alonso's tweet where he's like, the job of a samurai is to remain calm throughout all of that? Thank you, Austin, for being so nice to us. We'll see you next time.
Oh, my God.
Because, like, he came back and he's like, I'm fine. Like, his team radio is actually, like, they're all, like, thinking, like, are you okay? Are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Just change my wing, damn it. He was
just
so
lucky.
Alonso.
So lucky he didn't hit that barrier at a worse angle. That could have been.
I really can't wait for them to be teammates next year. It's going to be great.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, that's going to be a thing.
Yeah. Also, Stroll got very lucky he didn't end up in a barrier because he had both hands gripped onto that wheel through that whole crash. Mm-hmm. So,
lucky he didn't break his thumbs.
Yep. Because, I mean, he got very close to a few barriers. Also, kind of scary, though, that he got kicked back out onto the track. But, also lucky to not get hit nor break his wrist. So.
Right.
Yeah, they mentioned it a few times while during the replays on the broadcast, but just the job of the drivers behind them to avoid both those cars was pretty incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. And Lando with the front row view of that, getting even a little bit of damage from it. But like I thought there was going to be multiple cars. When I first saw it happen, I'm like, this is going to be like 4 F6 cars easy. Because it came right back into the racing.
Yep. All right. So final fan email is from Jenny Donahue, who says, Seb's race. Very sad he had a bad pit stop, which would have put him higher up. He fought every lap and kept overtaking. We saw 2 overtakes in the final laps by him on our turn.
Yeah, no, he had, I think Aston Martin collectively should say, even without the Stroll incident, should be very happy with the effort that they put in this weekend. If that is a harbinger of something to come, maybe that Alonso move makes a little more sense now. But whatever they ate for breakfast on Thursday morning when they put those cars together, they should keep doing it because it worked very well. They should be very proud of it. Seb deserved a better result. It's just too bad of the bad pit stop. Sadly that happens, but good effort all around by Aston Martin this weekend.
Agreed. All right. I think we're ready to move into the weekly awards. Worth double points this week. I'm sorry, I'm talking about the predictions, but the awards are worth just 1,000,000 points this week. Fuck it. We'll start off with rubbish. I'll do mine first. I got Stroll's late move. As Deanna just mentioned, that's a great way to welcome your new teammate, sir. And then, of course, a shout out to Tim Cook for the weakest checkered flag of all time. Andy, what do you got for rubbish?
Story that got kind of buried, but I am so done with the cost cap toxicity. This is not even a fun story to cover. Between the barbs, between Christian Horner, I was right about that press conference being appointment television, though, by the way. If you want to watch the interaction between Zach Brown, I love the fact Zach Brown didn't even look at Horner. It was so good. It's all there for you. Go watch it. Enjoy it. You want to eat it up, that's fine. But I am so done trying to figure out what's right or wrong here. Simply because apparently nobody's ever heard of a plea bargain agreement. I sincerely hope that all of these strict constitutionalists out there, if they're ever accused of a crime, that pleading a sentence out is a foreign concept to you. Take my 2 years suspended sentence? Hell no. Give me the 5 years max. That's what's in the code, right? Isn't that how we're supposed to manage ourselves? My God, it's a plea bargain. It happens all the time. The FIA is a prosecutor. That's what they're doing. They're cutting a deal. It's all right. Let it go.
Thank you, Andy. Deanna, what do you got for rubbish?
I have to keep the streak alive. It's either Ferrari or the FIA every week, and this week we're going to the FIA once again. Inconsistent penalty with Alonso and Perez, as well as Gasly and that whole disaster fiasco. And yeah, I'm sure there's a million more things they did this weekend, but that's the big ones.
All right, analysis Prels. This was a tough one this week. Not really any big gaffes, especially when even Ferrari gets a strategy right, even though it's probably mostly luck for that safety car to come exactly the right time that Charles needed it. But Andy, what'd you come up with for analysis paralysis?
The only one I could kind of think of was both the Alpines at the end not pitting at the same time McLaren did to cover that off, because it ended up with Norris on a much better or younger set of harder tires. They both did 2 stops, but the Alpine stops were done under the safety cars. So they came in, I think Lando came in with about 15 laps to go. Had they done that, they might have been able to consolidate those positions, at least on the road. That's about the closest thing I had. I thought overall, I think most of the strategies were really good on a track that gives you a lot of different options. So it was fun to watch.
Very good. And Deanna, you got an analysis paralysis?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the early pit stoppers. So that was Tsunoda, Albon, Zhou, Ricciardo, Gasly was early. They kind of got, everybody else got lucky with the safety car that was kind of ahead of them, but it really hampered their race, and I think kind of set them on the wrong path there. So yeah, that's all I got. Other than that, it was kind of everybody a bit did what they needed to do.
I just had the hesitancy to throw the meatball flag for Checo and Alonso. Both had shaky bits flying off their cars. And one guy got a 30-second penalty because of it after the race, of course. So, Dark Horse. Deanna, what do you got for Dark Horse?
I'm going to go with Fernando Alonso going airborne, somehow getting back to the pits, recovering all the way up to 7th. In my mind, he will always finish 7th. I don't care what stupid penalty the FIA decides to give him. He finished 7th. But I also will honorable mention to Norris for kind of coming out of nowhere, and those 3 overtakes and 3 laps was beautiful. And
Andy, what do you got for Dark Horse?
I've got basically almost, if I could give it to 3, I'd give it to 3. Lando, honorable mention to Vettel, and Fernando, I think all in that order. Great racing, great commitment by all 3 of them throughout the weekend to drag their respective cars up to probably where they didn't necessarily belong. So good efforts all the way around. It was fun to watch. Thank you for a great show.
Yeah, for my Dark Horse, I have Fernando Alonso, because fuck that penalty. And I got a special shout out for Sebastian Vettel for giving us some exciting racing, especially at the end there. All right, driver of the day. Andy, lead us off.
It's been a while since I've actively rooted for Lewis Hamilton, but I remember the 2012 race, and there's a bit of a stat about this. In the first race at Coda, Hamilton overtakes Vettel on lap 42 to take the lead of the race. 10 years later, Hamilton overtakes Vettel on lap 41 at Circuit of the Americas to take the lead at this race as well. I thought Lewis Hamilton's drive was outstanding. Good karting skill all the way around. Pushed it. Just ran out of laps, or had 4 laps too many, and Red Bull is too damn good. But I thought he drove his ass off. So Lewis Hamilton, my driver of the day.
And Deanna?
I'm still undecided between Hamilton and Verstappen. It might kind of be a tie because I think they both respectively did everything that they could do with those cars, and just kind of were at the absolute kind of max there.
I have no problem picking between the 2, and I'm going with Max Verstappen.
Yeah, figured.
All right, that's it for the awards for the weekend. Andy, why don't you run us through the prediction results from the weekend?
All right. So I will go first, and I will do mine. I finished. Now, we'll do the doubling in a minute, but I finished with 2 actual points. I had the P1 podium and the fastest driver, because I predicted George Russell to go get the fastest lap. Deanna, you had 3 total points on the day. You had the pole time, you had P1 on the podium, and you had the P5 bonus pick. James, you also had 3 points. You had the pole sitter, or P1 on the podium, the P5 bonus pick. Oh, I'm sorry, you did not have the pole sitter. You had P1 podium, P5 bonus, and the prop bet. You had 3.
USA, baby.
I'm just realizing that all 4 of them finished this race. That was like the biggest walk of my entire life, was that the 4 of them did not finish that race.
I'm the only true believer in the USA teams. Mick and Latifi tried their best to ruin it for me towards the end there, Latifi especially, but they all pulled through. And that's honestly what I was rooting for at the end of the race.
I just assumed one of them would have.
Well, 3 of us assumed the same thing. So did John. He had 4 points on the day. He had P1 podium, had the fastest lap time, the P5 bonus pick, and the P6 bonus pick. So we double all that. John gets 8 points. Deanna, you get 6. I get 4, and James gets 6.
Why are we helping John?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But apparently we did. So John ends up with 52 points. Deanna, you're up to 48. James and I are now tied in the basement on 44 as a riveting battle goes down all the way to Abu Dhabi, which we will probably do double points again to hopefully settle that battle. But we all have to be on our predictions game going to the end of the season.
We're going to be tied going into Abu Dhabi, and then for sure, I'm going to make sure some controversial shit goes down. Triple points, Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, D, I saw your note where it's like easiest call of my life, and I'm like, yeah, we'll go with that.
You should not have said that.
I would have thrown my entire life savings on that. I mean, like, I didn't look it up, and now I want to, but, like, how many races this year do you think all 4 of those tracks
That's a great question.
Finished?
That's a great question.
Probably not. I'd be shocked.
And it's not like Latifi didn't try. He did hit a barrier in the race, but he kept going. That's the only difference.
Go TV.
Okay. Oh, all right. First race I looked up, they all finished. Sorry.
That one doesn't count.
All right. Saudi Arabia, retirements, Australia. Oh, none of them retired. All right. They do this more than I thought.
Oh, okay.
All right. They survived a meal. They're on 3 out of 4 of the season so far. 4 out of 5. Oh my God, they do make it to the end of these races. What the heck?
Well, that's how you get everybody scoring points.
6 of 8 so far.
It's probably the European leg that we're thinking of, where it goes a little wonky for them.
All right, there's another one. Canada. Schumacher went. All right, here we go. Great Britain. Oh, well, that's Albon is out. Austria. Latifi out. Not a surprise. France. Latifi out. K-Mag out. Hungary. Oh, everybody finished in Hungary. Wow. All right. A little less. I literally would have, again, guessed that every single one of them. Like, one of them.
These F1 cars take a licking and keep on ticking. That's what they do now.
It's like the majority of the races they get through. This is wild. Okay. I would have never guessed that.
Mind blown.
What a revelation.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah.
Haas and Williams, more reliable than you think.
Yeah. Slow, but they get there.
Yeah. Slow and steady. Any final thoughts on the race weekend, Andy?
I think I say this pretty much every year. It's tremendously humbling, and I know I work my ass off to do it, but it's awesome that I was able to do this for a 10th time. If you have the means, I highly recommend that you do this. Miami's going to have the glitz and the glam. Vegas is going to have probably a show stopper type mentality. But if you want to get to where the heart of the racing is in this country right now, it's at Circuit of the Americas. These cars on this track was an amazing show. come find me. Like I said, I'll talk your ear off. I was making friends all over the place. It was awesome experience. So thanks to Coda for putting on a great show.
Oh yeah, Deanna, any final thoughts?
Yep, I'm very jealous that I didn't make it down there. Unfortunately, moving in Manhattan is very expensive. But next year, I will be there. Hopefully, we'll get another race just like this, just as exciting. And yeah, I'll hopefully see you there, Andy.
Sounds like a plan to me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, next
if we
up,
get enough. So the other thing we have to do is we have to get enough support now so we can buy a suite. That's the next step in the evolution.
Yeah.
I like it. Dream big.
We'll record live from the suite. That would be a thing. There we go.
All right. So next up, we got Mexico next weekend. So you'll hear from us in a few days on a preview episode, followed by the review on Sunday, and then at Brazil and then Abu Dhabi. So man, we're very close to the end here.
Steaming to the finish.
Yeah.
Here before you know it.
That is right. All right. Well, I think that's all we have for tonight. Thank you for joining us. As always, we will talk to you soon. Andy, take us away.
As always, may all your laps be fast.